أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألم نجعل الأرض مهادا والجبال أوتادا क्या हमने ज़मीन को फर्श या रहने के काबिल नहीं बनाया और क्या हमने sorry I started speaking in Urdu. I wanted to make this video in English. ألم نجعل الأرض مهادا والجبال أوتادا. The meaning is that have we not made earth as a floor, وَالْجِبَالَ أَوْتَادًا, and mountains as pegs. So these two verses we have been discussing last 7 videos, and this is the 8th video. And during the last 4 videos, we are discussing about the mountains. وَالْجِبَالَ أَوْتَادًا. Allah says that have we not made mountains as pegs? So we are discussing about mountains. What are the Allah's blessing in making mountains, and in what aspects of the mountains Allah has mentioned in Quran. It has been mentioned as in Quran and Hadith. It has been mentioned as a way of punishment also. There are many blessings also, and there are many other. And now I will present today a verse in which Quran says, Quran presents mountain as an argument for Tawheed, or as an argument for the uniqueness of creation in the world. So Allah has given the example of mountains. So that I will speak today. But before that, continuing to the previous video, I was talking about the Taif. Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam went for dawah to Taif, and there nobody heard his dawah. Rather, they asked the vagabonds to throw stones on Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And as a result of being stoned, blood was coming out of his body. And at that time, and he was taking rest at some place. That place has been made as a mosque now. But at that place, the Jibreel alayhi salam came and with a angel of mountains. This is the important point, mountains, because that Taif is a mountainous area. I had the opportunity to go over there. It is all full of mountains. And then even before reaching, from when you go Makkah to Taif, even before reaching from halfway between the Makkah and Taif, the mountains start and they continue up to Taif. So anyhow, that angel of mountain also was there, which Jibreel had brought, and he asked our Prophet that if you allow this angel of mountain, he will bring all the different mountains together, and they will be crushed between the mountains, all these people in Taif. So, but our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was a man of mercy, and he was very merciful, and he said, no, don't crush them, don't kill them. I hope their future generations will accept dawah and will become Muslims. So, of course, the prayers of the Prophet were accepted by Allah, and naturally there were And the whole Taif became Muslim, the whole Saudi Arabia became Muslim, the whole Arab Peninsula became Muslim. So in the later generations, especially about Taif, some scholars present the story of Muhammad bin Qasim. Muhammad bin Qasim was a son of Taif, and he was born in Taif, and he was the person who was the source of beginning of Islam in the Indo-Pakistan subcontinent. Only after Muhammad bin Qasim went to for jihad to India, from that time onwards, the Islam started to spread in India. But my personal experience is that even for Japan, Taif has played a role, because the first Holy Quran translation into Japanese was finalized in Taif. Before that time, in the beginning, there was a translation by Professor Itsutsu of Keio University. He was an Orientalist and he has written many books about Islam. But however, being an Orientalist, whatever he translated was all wrong, and it was not the true meaning of Islam. Therefore, the people in Japan, they thought that we should have a proper translation of the Holy Quran, and then here was a student from Iraq, and he probably belonged to Ikhwan al-Muslimin. He, during his student life here, arranged through Saudi embassy a monthly allowance of monthly allowance of $1,000 for a Japanese Muslim, Haji Umar Mita. This Haji Umar Mita was converted to Islam in China, and after the war he came back to Japan, and he also participated with Jamaat Tabligh. So therefore, Doctor, he also knew Chinese and English and, of course, Japanese. So this Mr. Saleh Sadi Mahdi Samurai, he selected him and requested him that please you do the translation of the Holy Quran. He accepted, and Mr. Samurai arranged a monthly allowance of $1,000. That was a big amount in those days. This I'm speaking about 40 or 50 years ago, because I am myself here for 50 years. So this had more than 50 years. And this matter started much before my arrival to Japan. So, however, this Haji Marmita started translating, and he took about 10 years to translate the true meaning of the Holy Quran. But he also did not know Arabic. He translated it from English, most probably from the Yusuf Ali translation he used. But to check his translation, Saudi Embassy made a committee of 5 persons, in which I was there as a president and chairman of Pakistan station. Then they selected the president of Turkish Association, and then Professor Abdul Karim Saito, the first president of Japan Muslim Association. That was the person who invited me to Japan for the work of the late. And there was one Sri Lankan. So like this, about 5 people from different communities, all of us used to take Quran in our languages None of us was any scholar of Quran. All of had our own translations in our own language. The Turkish president used his Turkish Quran. Quran translated into Turkish. I used the Holy Quran of Malana Madudi, Tafhim al-Quran, before me. And of course, professors had the English. Like this, all five persons, they had their own translation of their own country's language. And every week, Professor this Haji Umar Mita used to bring his translation. In near the Tokyo Mosque, there was a Turkish club or something, Turkish association office. So there we all used to gather, and Haji Umar Mita used to read his translation of Japanese. So all these five persons knew Japanese. So I and all the five persons from their own translated compared his translation to our translations in our languages, and we gave him suggestions to improve here and there. In this way, it took about 5 to 10 years. So in that, we completed reviewing him. After that review, Saudi Arabian embassy arranged an invitation from Rabita Islami of Saudi Arabia that I and Haji Marmita visit Saudi Arabia and present the translation to the ulama in Saudi Arabia. If they approve that translation, those ulama, then Rabit Alam Islami will publish it in Japanese language at the expense of Rabita. So for this mission, I and the translator, Mr. Umar Mita, both of us went to Mecca. And we were guests of Rabit Alam Islami in Mecca. But Haji Umar Mita was feeling Makkah very hot. So he told this, then the Rabta Alam Islami shifted me and Haji Umar Mita to Taif. So Taif was a very, what is called, a better place, and the climate was not so high, and the temperature was very moderate, and it was easy for us from who had come from Japan to stay there long time. So we stayed there in a hotel arranged by Rabta Alam Islami, and there Rabta used to send different ulama. One day one alim came, another day another alim came, like this. Several ulama came to Taif, to our hotel, and they asked different verses. They selected some verses and asked, how have you translated this verse and that verse? So Haji Umar Mita used to inform me in Japanese what he translated. I used to tell the same Japanese translation into English to that alim. So like this, ulama found that almost all verses, all translations were correct and right. No alim objected to any translation. All of them approved. As a result of that, the Quran was approved, and for the first time, it was published in Japanese as the approved Quran. And even today, more than 50 or 40 to 50 years have passed since the publication of that Haji Umar Mita translation. It is the only translation that is available now for all the Muslims. And now Pakistanis and others married girls, Japanese girls, they are all Muslim, and they all have to read that Quran. There is one Japanese a Muslim who got his education in, and he got his religious education in Libya Madrasa. He spent 8 or 10 years in a madrasa in Libya. Libyan embassy had given him a scholarship. He studied there Islam for 10 years. He came back and he made a computer program and homepage, and he put that entire Holy Quran on his homepage. The many these Japanese wives of the foreigners like Pakistanis, and we have thousands of them now. Pakistanis alone are 10,000. Then there are Egyptians and Arabs and Turks and many other nationalities who have Japanese wives. So that page on the website of Mr. Hamanaka, who came back from Libya and started his homepage. Daily, hundreds of Japanese click it. Total has gone to many thousand. And all of them click that through that Holy Quran translation, which was translated by Haji Umar Mita. Not only that, almost all Japanese, if they want to study Quran, usually they study that one. Now, recently, there are some more translations also. It is very, very recent, during last 2, 3, or 5 years. But still, they have not become so popular as the translation of Haji Umar Mita. So this is how Taif was the place where this Holy Quran for Japan was approved, and from there, from that approval onwards, Islamic teachings are the word of God spread in Japan. So as Taif was the place where Muhammad bin Qasim was born, and he conquered jihad, some parts of India, and after that the Islam spread in India. Similarly, in Japan, the spirit of Quran, Holy Quran, was became possible from Taif. So these are the barakah of Taif, where blood of our Prophet had flown. Some of his blood drops dropped there. So Allah has made that place a very useful and a place of barakah, because places have also their importance. If you say prayer in Makkah, and that is said, you have the reward of saying prayers like 100,000 prayers. And if in Makkah, so one hadith says 50,000 times, another says no, 1,000 times. But anyhow, there is a difference of reward in Makkah and Medina. It means every place has its own importance. So like this Taif has also an importance in the sense that our Prophet blood had flown on that territory. So these are the blessings of mountains in concerning the Taif. I mentioned this mountain, the angel of mountains had come. So as a memoir, I have spoken how Taif was useful for the spread of Islam, not only in India, but also in Japan. Now, second thing about mountains concerning Japan, the role of mountains for Japan is also some benefit, that is especially for Japan. This is also my memoir, and I want to record it, taking this opportunity. And it is about the graveyard. In Japan, it is mostly a Buddhist country, and here all dead bodies are burned. Only their, what do you call, bones, only their bones are put into grave. So because of this, in Japan, we had a problem for the Muslims to bury. There was no graveyard. And if we try to make any land as graveyard, the government does not allow. And in some places, if government allows, the local inhabitants make an objection. And when they make an objection, government takes back its permission. This was a big headache in Japan, how to make a graveyard. For this problem also, the mountains came in rescue. That I will tell later. One more aspect is in the beginning, as there were no graveyard, and there was also not much consciousness about Islam and much among the new people. There are many people, not many, but as we know, some which came to our knowledge, that some Japanese who had become Muslims, when they died, their relatives burned them. In some cases, we tried. The police give the dead body to us, we will bury them. But the relatives did not accept. They said, no, we have our own family graveyard and we will bury our relative in that graveyard so that we can visit that grave and do prayers in our own style. So this was one main reason. Even the very famous pioneer of Islam in Japan is the late Professor Dr. Abdul Karim Saito, who was also responsible for providing a visa and inviting me to Japan for the work of Dawa. When his wife died, her elder sister took away the dead body and she tried to burn it. So many delegation of Muslims went to her. Japanese Muslim Association, he was the president. So the whole directors, all these also went and requested her. She did not hear anybody's request. She told, no, it is our family tradition. And whatever she was, that was his personal matter, religion. She was Muslim or what. That is not our headache. We will bury her in our family graveyard. So like that, she was burned and her bones were buried in the family graveyard. Similarly, another Pakistani, his wife had separated from him, but the Japanese wife was a Muslim and his two children were living with his wife. And the wife was living in the, after divorce, she was living with her parents. When she died, her husband tried that, as she was a Muslim and the mother of his children, he tried to bury his wife in some Muslim graveyard, but these parents did not allow. But by that time, we had a very good relations with Japanese police. That is also a different story worth mentioning. And as a matter of record and registry, I want to mention that also for the future to people to know that thing. However, due to this influence of police, we requested the police that police explain to these family members that She was a Muslim and her husband wants that she should be buried in a Muslim way in a graveyard and she should not be burned. However, when the police interfered and explained to them, then they agreed. So this is the difference of the interference of police. At the time of the death of the wife of the Professor Abdul Karim Sato, we had no influence over police. Muslims were very few and there was no impact of Muslims. But by the time this second incident occurred, we had a very strong influence on police, and the police was cooperating with us and in every matter. So this is one big development how and why Japanese police became cooperative. So these things are not related to my explanation of Quran, but I want to take this opportunity to record the memoir that how police became cooperative with us and why. The story is that here, this Ihanat Rasul, the joking about the Prophet or writing a bad thing, blasphemy, what we call blasphemy. So these blasphemic writings, there were nothing in Japan, but when Salman Rushdie wrote his blasphemous book in English, so then in Japan they translate every book into Japanese. I mean, daily, not daily or yearly, about 20 years ago, I know the figure that yearly or monthly, I don't know, 4,000 books were being translated. I don't know, it was yearly or monthly, every day, from different languages into Japanese. So therefore, they translated the Salman Rushdie book, which in our view is a blasphemous book, and it was banned in all Muslim countries. It was a blasphemous, and we wanted that this book should not be published in Japan. So we, the Muslims, especially the Pakistan Association, of which I was the head and president, we made protest movement. We made big gatherings, made speeches, and we made protest march and this and that. But it had no influence. Police did not care about all these things. Then there were some Mujahid type of people among Pakistanis. They decided that at any cost, if they are not hearing our peaceful means, we will do whatever we can do, even by violence. Therefore, those Mujahid type people made a plan that when this book was announced in a press club, there is a foreign correspondent press club in Tokyo. All foreign correspondents of foreign newspapers, all of them, they use that club and for their research and writing and everything. And usually some intellectual incidents are sponsored from there. So the publisher and the translator, they all wanted to announce that they had made a function, a gathering, invited people to introduce that book, that we have published this book and we want to introduce this book. They had a function on the sixth floor of that building. There's a big building. On the sixth floor, it is a foreign correspondent club. So that our group of mujahideen who are determined to make violence, they entered when it was the time for opening that, they entered there about 10 minutes ago, So first of all, they saw on the first floor that there was a British lady who had put all those books, Japanese translation book of Ruiji, on the table and demonstrating, and it was for sale on the first floor. As soon as that our Mujahid group saw this, they just throw away those books and throw away that table, and that lady ran away, and everything was completely dislocated, and the police came and arrested the main leader, and he was taken into police custody. So that happened on the first floor. Thereafter, after about 5 to 10 minutes on this incident, on the sixth floor, that meeting started to introduce that Salman Rushdie book in Japanese language. There also our Mujahideen people had made the intention that they will not allow this. And they were successful. How? When the translator came on the mic, there was some Professor Igarashi, his name, who had translated. So then some Pakistanis who were sitting just on the front row, as soon as he started, that one Pakistani stood up and took the microphone, and from that microphone he beat that translator. Then the whole meeting was disturbed, and police, this white clothed police, 5, 6 people grabbed him and did not allow him to. But the whole meeting disturbed, and it was finished. They could not continue that meeting, and they could not introduce that book. So this was an incident, but in that incident also, when there was some calm, then one of our president of Pakistan Association at that time was Mr. Rais Siddiqui. He announced that this man will not remain alive. He will be murdered by somebody sometime, somewhere. Nobody cares. It is some madman is calling such things. But after 1 year, he was murdered in his own university. So this made the Japanese police very, 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 very sensitive. And they knew the reason that this person is the person who had made the translation, and somebody has murdered him. This, to my knowledge, this was the second incident after the first incident of this type that took place in Lahore. That one Hindu had written a book about this Rangila Rasul, that colorful prophet, and he was criticizing prophets for his marriages like this. So one Muslim went and murdered him in Lahore. This was the first incident in Indo-Pak area. In that India, after that incident, nobody dared. There are millions, very big population of Hindus and others. Nobody dared to make any joke or blasphemy against our prophet in India. After that, this incident in Japan was the second such incident. Thereafter, some have occurred in Paris, in France, and Europe, and here and there, when they tried to make blasphemous cartoons to publish. But the second was in Japan. Thereafter, the police became attentive to our sensitivities. The police came to me, came to the other president of this and all elders of the Muslim community, and they requested that if you have any problem which is affecting your religious sentiments, please tell us, and we will rectify that you people may not become angry or may not resort to violence. We will, police will interfere and make everything smooth as you wish. Thereafter, many incidents occurred in Japan. Some Jews and some Indians, they they made some clothes in China in which there were Arabic Quranic verses, and they wanted to use in those shirts in with Quranic verses written on them, and want to sell to make a business. But we protested as soon as such shirts came in some shop. Some Muslim saw them, and he reported to us that such shirts with Quranic verses, undershirts with Quranic verses are being sold on such and such a place. So then I called police, Mr. Rai Siddiqui called police and told them that in such places, such shirts with Arabic Quranic inspections are being sold, please stop them. The police used to go to their shops and told them that please stop, this is not allowed. So no shopkeeper has the courage to sell those shirts for which police is telling them not to sell. So like this way, police was very cooperative with us. Even in Kobe, there was some shoe on which it was made by America, and it had a mark of Allah on the shoe. So in New York also there was a protest, long protest. And here also when I was in Kobe, some Sri Lankan people brought that shoe to the Kobe Mosque, and they showed it to the secretary that please do something, such shoes with the name Allah written on them are being sold, do something. The secretary was a Pakistani man of Tablighi Jamaat. He told that we Tablighi Jamaat don't do all these things. If you want, you go and tell this problem to Mr. Hussain Khan. He will do something. So they came to me and they told the problem. I told, okay, you bring these shoes to some restaurant. I will call the police there, and you also come there and show that in my presence to the police. So I will tell to the police people that we don't want this shoe to be distributed or sold in any shop in Kobe. So they came with that shoe, and the police person came, and I explained him that this shop, if it is there, then the sentiments of the Muslim people will become very angry, and what they will do, nobody can guarantee, as they know that the Igarashi was killed because he heard the sentiments of Muslim. Similarly, I told him that we have, there were some verses, Arabic verses on some shirts, undershirts. They were sold. The police in Tokyo stopped them. So you also stopped this shoe from selling. Otherwise, I don't know what they will do. Not they, but anybody can do. And nobody knows who will do, what violence will occur in Kobe. So they immediately went to the shop and told them to stop the sale. So those shoes were not sold at all in Japan. So this blasphemy of Japan was not possible due to cooperation of police. Similarly, this graveyard problem, the burning of the Muslim dead bodies was also stopped with the cooperation of the police after this incident. Before this incident, we had no connection, and police also did not bother us who we are. Although there was an important personality of the president of the Japan Muslim Association whose wife was burnt. But after that, even for any small or big Muslim, if there is any such attempt, we used to call police, and police used to inform them, and they used to immediately deliver the dead body to the Muslim community, and we used to bother it there. The problem is that why I have told all these stories about graveyard and what is its relation to my Quran about Alam, Alam Najal Arda Mihadma wal Jibala Autada. They have we not made mountains at peak. So, as we are talking about mountains and its functions and its blessings, and it is being used for the azab and punishment and this and that, the one role which I have found here is that in Japan, those mountains have helped us for getting graveyards. Otherwise, it is because that in Japan we find that all this what is called and government or the public residents of Japan don't allow graveyard. But some places, there are some mountains, we were able to get graveyard because that most of the mountains in Japan are made of soil. They are usually very green mountains. So because they are green and they can be leveled to the ground, so mostly people don't live near them or around them. There are certain areas where they live, but certain areas where there is no human being living around those mountains. So such places, at least near Tokyo, we have got two places. One is in Yamanashi, Enzan, in the city of Enzan. There was a graveyard of Buddhists, but that was on some mountain, near some mountain. Although there was a locality below the mountain, below that, but that Buddhist graveyard had the permission or got the permission by the influence of Haji Umar Mita to get the permission for burning for burying dead bodies. As a matter of fact, that the translator of Holy Quran, Haji Umar Mita, was friend of a Buddhist priest. And that Buddhist priest was the in charge of the graveyard of some Buddhist graveyard in Enzan. Because they were old friends, so most of the translation which Haji Umar Mita has done was staying in that because that was a mountainous place and it was a not so hot, medium climate. This Umar Mita was an elderly man. He used to live with his friends in his house for about 10 years. And during those 10 years, when he made the translation of the Holy Quran, he was living with that Buddhist priest as friend, both. So, because of his influence, he requested that Buddhist priest in your graveyard to take permission to allow some place for burying the dead bodies also. The burying dead bodies is not allowed by the government. So, because that priest was a very influential man, so he got the locality head of the municipality to grant that permission, and he also was influential for the people living near his graveyard, but on a very down place. He also explained to them that if there are dead bodies here, there will not be so many, and even after rains, nothing that water will not go to your homes or to the land in your place. Don't bother and like this. So he also got the permission of the residents nearby. There is a difference. If we go for permission, they will not give. But if somebody of their own people, like a Buddhist priest to whom they know and make respect, if he requests to some locality, some people, they agreed. Like this, we got our first graveyard in Anzan city on a mountain. The whole mountain was purchased by Saudi Arabian embassy. I went with the Saudi ambassador and some other Muslims to the Anzan city, and the Anzan city mayor gave us an invitation to the ambassador, and he told that people of a different country will be buried here, and it is a honor for our city that in the entire Japan, our city has been chosen for the dead bodies of the Muslims over here. Like this, he welcomed our delegation with under the leadership of the Saudi Arabian ambassador at the time. So I and three, four more Muslims were in the same car of the Saudi Arabian ambassador. We went and got that permission, and Saudi embassy paid for it. The whole mountain was purchased. But then from that mountain, Saudi this Japan Muslim Association just levels off a small portion because very huge expenses are required to level up the entire mountain. Even for a small part, to level off, to take away the soil of that mountain and to make a plain like ground, it takes a lot of money. So, however, with the donations of the Saudi embassy and other people, they used to make plain ground only a small portion. And when that small portion is filled with the graves, then they used to spend money for more. So like this, they had to spend money and there was not regular income. So they have turned back to the Japanese tradition. What is Japanese tradition? Japanese tradition is that people buy their graves. All the Buddhist people buy their graves and reserve those graves that when they die, they should be, their bones should be buried on that grave. Otherwise, without buying earlier, they usually don't get a place so easily for the grave. So they buy beforehand. And there's a big prices, at least $10,000, $20,000 to buy a grave. In Hong Kong, many Buddhists become Muslim when they became old. Why? Because they don't have the money to purchase a grave. And they know that when they will die, there will be no place to bury their bones. So therefore, they prefer to become Muslim at the last years of their life. And because if they die as a Muslim, the Muslims will bury them in some Muslim graveyard and it will be free. So that is the reason in Hong Kong. But in Japan, the people who became Muslim, they are themselves Japanese and they are well trained in Japanese traditions. So they, despite knowing that this is not a tradition, some of the Japanese Muslims are alim, they know what is the right Islam. But the Japan Muslim Association is taking $10,000 for one grave. So these normal Muslims cannot afford. There are some Japanese Muslims that they know they have to buy grave. Even the Japanese Muslims, some of them buy grave, and they are buried in the Japanese Muslim Association graveyard. Although it was purchased by Saudi Arabian embassy and it was given as a gift to them, but they say that we cannot maintain these expenses. Just to take some small 5,000 or $1,000 for digging grave charges is not sufficient. So they have their own logic and they have their own traditions, and the result is they have to pay $10,000 to buy a grave if a Muslim wants to enter. So therefore, we, the Pakistani Muslims and others, try to get other graveyards. And for that purpose, again, King Fahd of Saudi Arabia, he sent $700,000 to Saudi embassy to purchase some graveyard in Japan. But that effort failed. Saudi Arabian embassy, with the help of the local Muslims like us, tried to purchase graveyard in different parts of Japan. Everywhere, it resulted in failure. Either the local municipality did not allow. If the local municipality allowed, the people did not allow. And some places, if the people allow, but local municipality did not allow. Nowhere they can purchase. As a result, after about 7 or 10 years, that money went back to Saudi Arabia, that no graveyard can be purchased. Here I am saying that the mountain is coming to our rescue. Now, recently, again, in a Shizuoka prefecture, in a mountain area, a Buddhist religious awqaf, which has some temple and also graveyard for Buddhists. They had a very vast land, and they purchased the manager of that Buddhist religious awqaf is a doctor, and he is not a priest. He is that he is what is called represent CEO of that CEO, Chief Executive Officer of that religious awqaf of Buddhist. So his wife somehow was in Saudi Arabia for some reason, I don't know why. So his wife has some sympathy with the Muslims, and on the urging of the wife, his her husband, who was a doctor, a retired doctor, and also CEO of a Buddhist religious awqaf. He requested him, and he, along with his Buddhist priest, he purchased a new land near the Buddhist graveyard, and in the name of that religious awqaf. Buying in the name of religious awqaf means there he can have graveyard. Now in that graveyard, because it was all in the mountain area or some plain area, mountain and plain, so he was able to get permission for burying. So why he took permission for burying? He had the same monetary motive. He thought that Muslims have no graveyard, and I can make money by buying a land for the Muslims, that if any Muslim dead body comes, I will ask them to give $10,000 and get a grave from me. So maybe he wanted to compete with the Japan Muslim Association, although he was not a Muslim. His wife only had gone to Saudi Arabia. So he has that graveyard, and some Muslims are buried there. For the Muslims, he sells for, because when some Muslims don't get any better place because there is no free graveyard anywhere, therefore some Muslims are buried there. Recently, some Pakistani Muslims found some two places, a small place, where they got the permission of burial. There is a small place and they also make some charges, but they charge only for digging the grave, not for the grave. So this is a very small and insufficient place, but that big place is only with the mountains. This is the blessing of mountains for Japanese people, that the mountains in Japan are made of soil, and those soil can be leveled to ground to some extent, and therefore the graveyard of Muslim as a free can be possible. Now about this possibility, there is one more thing I have to start, that I have a Japanese Islamic foundation. And we want to, I am not, Japan Islamic Foundation is not a religious awqaf. We want to make it religious awqaf, but it will take 3 years to get recognition as a religious awqaf. So we don't have, Japan Islamic Foundation is not an awqaf. Then what we want, that Muslim graveyard, which a doctor and his wife are selling graves for $10,000. So we negotiated, so they are ready to sell that graveyard to us, and then we can use that graveyard for free burial of Muslims. That is also a part of mountain, and we can buy some more area of the mountain if we want the expanded graveyard of Muslim. But his condition is that you pay a big amount for this religious awqaf, because we also want to buy his Buddhist religious awqaf. Because not we want to buy, rather his condition is that you buy this religious awqaf. Of course, we want religious awqaf, but we want a Muslim religious awqaf, not a Buddhist religious awqaf. But religious awqaf has its own facilities with the government, whether it is Buddhist or a Muslim. Government has some taxes are not to be paid if it is religious awqaf, whatever religious awqaf it may be. So therefore, we are interested that, okay, we will buy that religious awqaf, because that one facility of the religious awqaf is that if somebody from outside Japan makes a donation, there will be no tax. But if Japan Islamic Foundation gets a donation from abroad, there will be tax in Japan. That is not, the donation is not treated as donation, that is treated as income. And since it is the income, so the tax on such income is 50%. So half of the donation will go to the government as tax. So this is the rule. So if we buy that Buddhist religious awqaf, and if we get donation in the name of that Buddhist religious awqaf, so that donation will be without tax. And with that money, we can buy graveyard or do other things, whatever we want to do. So until Japan Islamic Foundation is accepted as a religious awqaf in the next 3 years, we are trying to buy that Buddhist religious awqaf. And buying means buying and selling is not allowed. I am using these words for the understanding. It is buying and selling is not allowed. Rather, the only thing it can be done is the change of the CEO, Chief Executive Officer. If the Chief Executive Officer changes, and he has the full power what to do, what not to do. And there are no other directors and others to interfere. And secondly, if their seal, they have their special seal. So if that new CEO name is changed from that doctor to my name, and I get the seal, it is equal to buying that Buddhist graveyard because it will be all under my control. Then I can make the graveyard free without charge for Muslims. So this is the scheme we are planning now, that we will try to buy that Muslim graveyard where they are taking 10,000 yen per grave. We will make it free. We will buy that Buddhist or religious wakaf, and we will get donations from outside. There are people who are ready to donate, and from the donation, we will make the uh, uh, we will make those Muslim graves free for all the Muslims, and we will try to buy more and more land in that area as much as possible, because in future again there will be a problem if that land is full, because in the beginning in Japan, in Yokohama and Tokyo, the government was very cooperative in the government graveyard. They had given some land for the Muslim graveyard in Japan, in Tokyo, and in Kobe. But they were a small area, and they are all filled now. In Yokohama, there was one which was given to the Turkish people. It was the first community. In Tokyo, also Turkish people got. In Yokohama, some war veterans were allowed, but all those are full now. No place for any new dead body. In Kobe, also full has become full, the place, and there is no additional place for the government, and government has no interest now. At that time, the government also had some interest and some understanding, but now no. Now they don't care you are Muslim or what. So now again they are in difficulty. So therefore, we are trying to not only make the graves free, but also to buy more and more land to make the biggest possible graveyard in Japan, because in future we don't know what is going to happen. So this is the thing about the mountains in Japan and how they have benefited us. So today it has become a long only in these two stories of mine. In next video, I will take one verse, Surah Fitra, and there we will talk about new thing. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.